ready to learn what it takes to build your author platform? We have a couple of people here who have worked on the BookFest website as you see it. And I just got to say, I'll give you a little bit of the backstory because it's kind of fun and interesting. But as well, both Brian and Dave are with Black Château. And they've been working with authors on their websites, social media, email marketing, all of that foundational platform stuff. And by an author platform, I'll just kind of set the stage, what we're talking about when we say that, because a lot of authors have likely heard of it. Chances are, if you've heard of it, it's within the industry. And maybe if you're pitching your manuscript, you've heard it from a potential agent or even a publisher. They like to ask, well, what's your author platform? And I'm here to tell you what they really are asking you for are what are your numbers? How many social media followers do you have? How many email addresses do you have in your email database? How do you have a website? What kind of a website? They want to know these things because they want to know what kind of fan base you have, because that's what you bring to the table when they have to decide whether or not they might want to represent or publish your book. And without further ado, what I'm going to do is I'll start with Dave. He is the head of operations here at Black Château and with the BookFest. I'll give him a chance to introduce himself, and then we'll do Brian. Dave, why don't you go first?
Oh, exactly that. I work with Black Château and the BookFest. I have a background in technology. I mainly handle social media and advertising, whether that be social media advertising or Google or Amazon, etc. Yeah, that pretty much sums me up.
Awesome. Brian, you want to say hi?
Hi, yeah. Like Desireé said, I've been working with the team since even before the first BookFest, and have been building websites since, sort of 2007, 2008 kind of time frame, and have been doing that ever since and helping people, build those platforms centered around their own websites.
Yeah. And I think out of everybody that's part of the Black Château team, which we're on our 6th year, and part of the BookFest too, Brian's actually been working with me the longest because, fun fact, I kind of poached him from the company that I worked at before. So we go back a ways. And to give everybody the backstory of the BookFest, if you haven't read about it or are kind of curious as to why we are doing this and how we got here, it started in early 2020 when lockdowns first started happening and book conventions and fairs and things were getting shut down or postponed. The Los Angeles Times Festival of Books happens every year in the spring, and we're going to have our authors there. They always do in-booth signings, and it's a good time. And we do social media around it and press and publicity. And when that locked down, I basically sent Brian an email. I said, what could we do online? Could we do something online? Are there out of the box solutions for doing a festival online? How could we do that? Maybe we do it on Facebook, or, at the time we were already doing Facebook events. And he was like, I can build that website. And I said, okay, Brian, can you build that website in 6 weeks? And he said, challenge accepted. So when the version you see now of the BookFest website has evolved a lot, but in those early days, it was really fast and hard hitting because it got turned around in like 6 weeks. Do you remember that?
Yeah. Dave does too. Yeah. That was a lot of hard work, a lot of long days and nights to pull that together. And, in addition to just building the website, we had to think about things like, it's like a Boxing Day event, right? Nobody shows up till the day, and then it's huge. So, can we handle that? Can we handle that traffic, handle those people, those visitors on the day? And Dave, with all those streams, getting all that working, getting it all integrated, connected into YouTube, connected into Facebook, it was a big challenge putting that all together.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just, but I think that was part of the fun of it. When you're scrappy like that and you're just flying by the seat of your pants, and, in a way it was like a very forgiving time too, I feel, because of the fact that even back then, people barely knew what Zoom was outside of the business world. And even then it was, not really that well known. So people were also very forgiving. And I just remember the outpouring of support and the community that comes together, and just acknowledging all the BookFesters, everybody that supports us to this day, because now we're doing this twice a year and it's just growing and growing every time. And I'm going to segue into the importance of, and I'll go back to you again, Brian, to talk about website design and development, because sometimes we are tempted to go with some easy out of the box type solutions. Like I was kind of asking about, is there something kind of just easy to use? And you were like, no, I want to build this the right way. Can you talk about that concept a little?
Yeah, for sure. It's easy to, or it's marketed as being easy to go to one place over here to help do lead magnets and sign people up for your email list, and then go over here and have that be, your social media sharing platform, and then go over here and maybe put, a community together for your website or something. You have all these different disparate, disconnected things that you're doing to try to, pull your community together to build that author platform. And, the author platform should be something that you own as much as you can at the end of the day. So if ClickFunnels has a problem, or Kajabi shuts down, or Entreport isn't doing something, if that connection between one and the other breaks, you won't lose all of your stuff. Like, where did all of my followers go? Where's all my content? Where's all my subscribers? You won't have to worry about that if you kind of do it right the first time and build your own. And then I would, say build it using open standards, sort of open, known technology.
Yeah. And I think that, when people might go from one webmaster or one developer or one person to the next, it's another good reason to just stick with some of the tried and true stuff, because you don't want that new person going, what the heck? I don't know this. But WordPress, for example, everybody knows WordPress. You kind of can't go wrong with WordPress. And there's other benefits to WordPress as well. And we're not here endorsing WordPress. Actually, the only brand we're here endorsing other than the BookFest is Rise, because they're one of our awesome sponsors. But we do have some of our own favorites, and some places that are just so well known within the industry. We tend to talk about them a lot. And I don't know, Dave, if you wanted to add anything to this idea of using platforms and tried and true methods, places and platforms that are ubiquitous. Did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I mean, from the perspective of gathering information and tracking users and who your fan base is and understanding your demographics, it's very handy to have them all in one place. Whereas you're not trying to get information from A, B, and C and kind of cobble it together. And, what those platforms may track or understand may be different depending upon the platform that you're using as well. And some of the out-of-the-box websites even are very difficult to connect to things like analytics and so on.
Yeah, fair enough. And as far as your content marketing and what you might be sharing on social media and your SEO and stuff like that too, I know a lot of times I'll just always kind of say Yoast. Yoast is one of the more common plugins that you can use for your SEO. And I don't know, Brian, if you want to talk about that. Again, not that we're promoting Yoast specifically, but just kind of talk about how that fits into somebody's website and their content marketing strategy.
Yeah, for sure. So Yoast helps you with that search engine optimization. So as you build out a platform, as you build out a website, you want to rank well in Google for certain terms. And one of them should really be your author name, your nom de plume or your real name, whatever you write under. If somebody searches that in Google, like, you should come up as one of the top search results. Maybe not number one, like maybe Amazon outranks you because they're just, the 900-pound gorilla out there, and it's going to be tough to outrank them. But, you really want to get on that first page. And so there's SEO work that you should do on your website, how you structure your content and some settings and changes you can make behind the scenes. And the beauty of Yoast is they have a ton of mind share, and they've been around for a long time. So if you have a question They have a ton of information online that you can go to, and you can search YouTube. If that's your thing, you can go to University of YouTube and you can find all kinds of courses to help you use Yoast. You can find blog articles. You can find all kinds of help out there. And if you reach out to get help from somebody, there's going to be tons of SEO people and web developers and stuff who are very familiar with Yoast and how to use it. So you kind of can't go wrong with using them.
I like that you brought up such a salient point about optimizing for your own author name or nom de plume. And it's something, even going back to branding, and a lot of this is all just predicated on branding. Even though we're talking about building the house, so to speak, structurally, everything of every aspect of an author's platform is kind of based on the branding. And what you want to do is make sure, too, that if you've got a really common name, if your name is John Smith, maybe it's a good time to think about adding a middle initial or two. And even Googling that name before you even really start. And then to pull that string as a through line all the way through, so you understand at what point does this really matter. It's going to matter when you're pitching yourself to that agent, because you want them to Google you and see your website popping up, and maybe your Amazon page, like you said, social media, etc. And a little further down the road, you want the publisher to do the same, because they're going to be checking that author platform. And Googling somebody, that's the foundation of what SEO is. It's looking them up. Once you're getting those books out there, you want readers to Google you and find you. And when you're being pitched for press and media appearances, speaking at events like this, you want those organizers, those producers, etc., to Google you and find you. So I just kind of wanted to pull that all together, because I know a lot of times authors are a little confused about, why do I need SEO? What's that for? And that's just one example. And I don't know, Dave, if you wanted to add anything to that thought line, or anything more about, I saw you nodding your head when I talked about the author naming conventions.
Yes. Do your research before you put your name on your book. That's all I can say. And when you do your research too, it's very important to use a private window or incognito window, so that it's not taking into account your browsing history at all. It's a clean slate, and it'll show you what Joe Blow off the street is going to get when they Google that. So, yeah.
Yeah. And when we talk about content marketing, it's a little bit jargony, and it means, some different things to different people. In the author world, that usually means your blog. Yes, it's all of your content on your website, but a lot of times we're talking about your blog, and, maybe you're sharing recipes if you've got a cookbook, or health tips if you've got a fitness book. Brian, do you want to talk a little bit about content marketing and what some good strategies are for having a blog on one's website?
Yeah, for sure. You'll be rewarded by Google and Bing and the other search engines for keeping fresh content on your website. So that will help you rank better. So having a blog is a great way to do this. And so, and like Desireé said, it should kind of sink in with your offering. So if you're writing self-help books, articles, should sort of be in that vein. You can stray from it a little bit. If you're building a relationship with your readers, you might also have a post here and there that talks about maybe a great vacation that you took or something. But, kind of stay on point. And for fiction authors, that could be a little bit more difficult, right? But you can write posts that sort of talk about your characters, talk about your process, talk about the research that you've done for your book, or places that you've gone to, understand locations and settings and that kind of thing. And those are all great things that your readers would really love to know about, get more insight into your characters and get more insight into locations and plots and big events in the story and that kind of thing. So definitely, use that. And you have a gift. You're an author. So 99.9% of the people out there with websites aren't. So use your gift and write and put that up periodically on your website. Like try to keep a good cadence. You don't have to do it every day. But every week or every month or something, you should be putting more new stuff out there for your visitors and your readers to interact with and give them a reason to come back and visit you again.
Yeah. And we were talking a little bit about analytics and tracking and some of that as well, even before we started. Dave, I don't know if you wanted to unpack some of that and the importance of that as it might pertain to your content strategy, as well as social media. I know social media and advertising tend to be within your wheelhouse. If you wanted to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. And even the blog thing in terms of, it's on your website, so you're creating content on your website, but you're also able to leverage that too in your newsletter, in your social media posts, and so on. So you're creating new content for all your platforms to be able to use on them to promote yourself. So yeah, that's fantastic. So one writing job, lots of uses. In terms of analytics. So in tracking traffic, tracking users, tracking your demographics, you may think that you have a certain demographic when you start out, but really you have to put your book out there to really find out who is actually reaching. And a good way to do that, obviously, is connecting analytics. I'm sure Brian can speak to that a lot more than I can from Google, but also social media has analytics now as well that can give you deep insights into, age groups, gender, things like that. And that's all very important to kind of help you know who you're writing for, who your audience is as you continue to write.
Yeah, for sure. And just to kind of expand on what you said about reusing your content or multi-purposing your content, I think is a fantastic idea. So if you write that article, then you can use that, like you said, on social media and different places. And if you post on social media in different places, try to draw people back to your website to view that article, and then try to capture them as a lead in your email marketing, and grow that part of your platform. That's really important, because Google can make, or Google, Facebook, or Instagram can make an algorithm change, and maybe you don't show up so much anymore, and they're doing what's in the best interest for their business, and that doesn't necessarily coincide with yours. So if you can draw people back onto your platform and try to capture them, to capture their email addresses and put them in your email marketing, now that's something that's in your control, and it doesn't matter what Facebook might do in the future, or Instagram, or somebody else.
Yeah, and it goes back to one of the just philosophies that a lot of, I feel, good web developers have, and you're one of those good web developers, Brian, is that you should, make sure that you have that everything on your website, because of the fact that it's yours. You control it. You can't control Facebook. Facebook just made a bunch of changes again. Gosh only knows what they're doing with Meta nowadays. What if Meta fails and you lose that? And then I'll bop down to Dave too. When you're talking about doing advertising, if you're going to advertise on Facebook, then you're going to need a pixel. And some people don't even know what a pixel is, but if you're going to do advertising on Facebook, you're going to want to draw them to your website. So all of these things are very integrated. And I want to dig into the numbers a little bit. I can kind of go off in a bunch of different directions here very easily, but I'm just going to pull the numbers back to that original thing that we talked about. How cool would it be if you had been doing some of the research like Dave is talking about, so that you really know what your market size is, and that's what you're telling to that potential publisher and agent, because that means you know your stuff. And Dave, I'll go back to you a little bit and just talk about some of the different ways that you can, do that research, or at least think of ways that you can do that research to really find out what your target audience is and how you can find the numbers and comp titles and things like that.
Yes, comp titles is a little bit difficult, but as far as your audience goes, yes, part of the changes that have come along from Meta merging Facebook and Instagram here in the last few months, and it's going to be progressing, I'm sure, through the end of the year and possibly into next year, But they've come up with a meta business suite, which is really cool, and that it's a place where you can go to manage your page. And let's make sure everyone understands that too. A profile on Facebook is not what you want if you are an author to promote yourself. You need a page, and to get a page, you do need a profile. But the page is what you want, because that is what you can advertise on, and that is what you can see the metrics on. Having a profile is not a good thing, just because you lose that functionality and you lose the ability to actually track or promote anything. So anyway, yes, once you have a page set up, you can see your actual metrics in the business suite. They also do have a higher level business management platform as well, called Facebook Business Manager. That's a little bit deeper in the weeds, but that's where you would go to set up a Facebook pixel and so on like that. And the good thing about that is we've been talking about WordPress, and WordPress has very good integration with Facebook's pixel as well as Google's pixels and so on as well. So yeah, but I mean, at a glance, even if you're just starting out, you can see within the business manager, what your audience is and where they're going. And that also helps you to do some basic advertising to grow your audience as well, because Facebook has been around for quite a while. So getting past 1,000 is very difficult these days, followers on a Facebook or Instagram. So you really do need to spend some advertising dollars to continue to grow your audience past 1,000 and really build a robust audience that, you'd be proud of and that the publisher would be proud of too. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm curious your thoughts on some of the new social media platforms that pop up. People are asking about TikTok and things like that. Any thoughts on the social media platforms that maybe people should be using or thinking about using?
Yeah, well, so I think it was you that said, pick two and stick with them. And again, that kind of goes back to your demographic, finding out what your demographic is. If you're doing a lot of things with baking and fashion and things like that, then that's more Instagram and maybe Pinterest. If you're doing things that are more political or debate type writing, Twitter is a great place to get into stuff like that. Facebook is a generally good place to get involved for everything. But if you happen to be on Facebook and Instagram works well for you too, they're an excellent match because you can actually do the posting as well on the business manager, and you can post to both as one, so it's half the work. So that has some upsides too, and you're only messing around with one pixel. TikTok is interesting, especially if you're doing a lot of video. It doesn't pair well with YouTube, so just because you have YouTube doesn't mean you want to do Instagram or TikTok, because it is a different aspect ratio. It's vertical versus horizontal, so it doesn't easily translate, which is sad. Also, TikTok is a bit difficult to advertise on as well as a platform. Their minimum ad buys, I think right now, are like $20. So it's not as easy to get into for people. Whereas, Facebook, you can spend as little as $1 a day per boost or something like that. So.
Yeah. And going back, the two platform philosophy that we generally say that. It also goes back to when you're pitching yourself to that agent or publisher, or you're building your own fan base. I see authors that feel they need to spread themselves very thin on everything. And true story, we had an author once who were basically helping her with her book proposal and everything, and had a really big publisher on the line, one of the big five, actually. And she unfortunately had not updated her YouTube channel in a couple of years, and they saw that. So that nakedness, that social media platform that at one time was doing really great that she neglected actually worked against her. It's better to have one or two platforms where you've got 10,000 followers than a bunch of platforms where you've got, a couple of hundred on each and you're spread so thin, there's really no value there, perceptually speaking. Email marketing, we've mentioned that a few times. And Brian, I'll go over to you. And you're talking a little bit about, the ideal of funnels and, leading people in with their email marketing. Can you talk about how that's integrated a lot of times with somebody's content strategy, website, et cetera?
Sure. So, you can get traffic one of two ways. We talk about SEO. So if you rank well in Google for your name and for the titles of your books and that type of thing, the people searching on that will find your website and come to you that way. We also talked about maybe you want to do some advertising on Facebook or that type of thing. And so now you're buying those clicks and people can come to your website that way. But when they get there, especially if you're doing paid ads, when they get to your website, you really should take them to a landing page. Mm-hmm. And so this is where we talk about how you can consolidate, where you don't need to have ClickFunnels and lead pages and something else. If you can just do it all on your own website, and we talked about WordPress, that will make it easy. You can easily create landing pages on WordPress. And so when you get people to your website, and we talk about lead magnets, what you're really talking about is offering a visitor something of value in exchange for their IP address. And it should be real value. It shouldn't be some, sort of BS thing that you're tricking people with. It should be real value. And we talked about some ideas for blog posts, and some of those also make good lead magnets. So if you're writing, self-help book or educational books or something, lead magnets can be things like guides or cheat sheets or a progress tracker, or print your own flashcards or something to help you there. And if it's a fiction book, it can be some of the other things we talked about. Maybe there's a bonus chapter where you learn more about two characters, just a small bonus chapter, something like that. Or maybe there's illustrations of your characters or something like that you've got, that you used when you were writing, that you could share with people. You can think a lot of creative ways of, people can engage with you. What I wouldn't do as a lead magnet is something like an iPad, because word will get out and you'll get 1 billion people signing up who want a free iPad who don't care about you or your books or your writing at all. So I would try to stay away from something generic like that. It sounds good up front to get lots of people signing up, but then you send your first follow-up email and they start saying that you're sending spam out, and then your email provider drops you, and now you're in real hot water. So try to do lead magnets that are sort of relative or relevant to you and your audience. And when you capture those emails, then if they sign up, you need to deliver that lead magnet right away. Don't make them wait. And when you capture that email, try to capture it back to your email marketing platform, whether it's MailChimp or Constant Contact or MailerLite or whoever it is. You can connect your website to those platforms. So all this happens automatically. And you could send them their lead magnet automatically and a welcome email automatically. You can just automate that whole thing so it becomes very easy for you to do that. And that's a big part. Having that email list is a huge thing to be able to, show publishers that you have a lot of interest, in your world and in your books and in you as an author, that they're going to find very attractive.
Yeah. And it's really engaging that fan base, like you're saying, using those lead magnets as a way to get them reading and buying your book. That's some great ideas there. And that's why email marketing is so powerful and popular among authors. I think where some authors struggle with it is they just don't understand the value. They hear people telling them, this is what you need to do, but they don't really understand the sales funnel behind it, or the whole content strategy that's happening behind it. And I'll go to Dave and maybe see if he can throw out some ideas or some things that, let's face it, we do it, or we advise our clients to do it when they're doing their welcome email and when they're creating their drip campaigns. Just, do you have any thoughts on things people can do with their email marketing to reduce the bounces and to reduce the unsubscribes and spam reports?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, the first thing to do is tell them who you are and how they became signed up on your email list. The second thing probably to do is invite them to opt out, unsubscribe from your email list if they're not interested in what you're about. And the key there is unsubscribe, not report you as spam, as Brian was saying. Because if you do get too many of those, you will get dumped, or they will delete your entire email list, or lots of fun things can happen, and that all goes in the garbage. So that's definitely not good. But inviting them to unsubscribe will usually give people an easy out, I guess, is a good way to put it for them. So they don't feel hurt that you're sending them an email, but then they're not trying to punish you as well.
Yeah. And again, they're finding some value there, and hopefully they are a true fan that is going to want to engage with you, eventually buy your books. If they're just there for free stuff, you kind of want them to go away. To Brian's point, you don't want that riffraff just kind of hanging around, taking up space. A lot of times you're paying for that email address to be on your platform if you're using something like Constant Contact. And let's talk about some of those platforms as well. A lot of people will ask me, which one do you like best? Which one do you recommend? And I'll go back to you, Brian. Which email platform do you like? Which ones do you recommend?
Yeah, the one I use myself is called MailerLite. I like it because it has a lot of automations that you just sort of get out of the box, which is really nice. So automations are things like when a user joins your list, you send them a welcome email, or you send them a welcome email today, and then another email tomorrow, and then the next day, and then the next day, sort of a whole sequence, what we call a drip campaign. And that stuff is easy to set up there. But we were having this conversation earlier, Constant Contact, we've talked about before, and they have very good email delivery rates. So they're certainly a solid choice. And then MailChimp earlier this year, MailChimp is sort of the OG email marketing platform. They've been around forever. And this year late last year, they got purchased by Intuit. So it'll be interesting to see, maybe what happens with them going forward. How, Intuit might change them as a company or not, right? Or invest in them, or what's going to happen. So that'll be interesting to watch.
Yeah. Dave, do you have any thoughts on email platforms?
It depends on how many emails the author currently has. If they're just starting out, I usually recommend MailChimp just because it's free to get going. And then they can build up that email list, and the more understanding they have about what they're actually doing with the email list, they can graduate to something like Constant Contact. And of course, you can export and import these email lists across different platforms and so on. So you can switch if you want to. But if you're starting out with 20, 30,000 emails, then it's better to go with a more robust platform, I think, than MailChimp for sure.
Yeah. And Brian mentioned the magic word too, or words, open rate. That matters.
Yeah.
Your metrics matter. And I've seen better results with platforms besides MailChimp. Nothing against that cute little monkey, but I think sometimes they pull you in with 2,000 free email addresses. But, sometimes how much does that matter if people aren't necessarily opening your emails? Because all those numbers, they matter. Okay, how about this? How about if we jump over and talk about any trends in the online marketing world, or predictions, thoughts about stuff that's happening now and in the near future? And I'll go to you first, Brian. Any thoughts on what's going on?
So we talked about analytics earlier, like analytics on your website, and installing that is easy. And the big market leader in analytics is Google Analytics. And you can get a free account with Google Analytics. Again, if you have WordPress or something, setting it up is very easy. You can get a plugin. But Google Analytics is changing. They have had their universal analytics forever. And next year, they're going to turn that off, and it's going to be replaced with Google Analytics 4 or GA4. So if you have analytics now on your website, it's time to set up GA4 and switch over. And if you're getting ready to start a website, just go with GA4 to begin with and put those analytics in there. And then just briefly, other predictions I see, WordPress itself, I see going through a lot of changes. I'm in frequent contact with the core development team there. And there's a lot happening in WordPress this year and into next year that's actually looking pretty cool in terms of increasing performance of the platform and making it easier to design and develop web pages and whole site themes and that type of thing there. So the future there is looking very bright, actually.
Exciting. Cool. Dave, how about you?
Oh, I was just going to say, so yeah, if you're new and you're setting up Google Analytics, I think you're stuck with GA4. I think they took away the option to do universal at this point.
Okay.
It's sad. It's sad. But yeah, and again, that goes back to the cookies and all of that too. So like new laws, new restrictions with OS 14, I think it was 16. So different requirements in terms of the ability to track user and user information, so on and so forth. So I think, laws and platforms like Apple changing those things is really what's driving the changes in the analytics and how they're implemented and so on. So yeah, that is interesting. As far as social media, advertising, things of that nature go, we're all seem to be moving in a direction of shorter form content. So like the shorter the content, the better. I know at the same time, TikTok is extending the amount of like length of video you can post on their platform and things like that. But realistically, I think the reason that they were a success is because of their shorter form content, because people just want that pithy 5-second video. So keep that in mind, especially when you're creating blog posts. Break up your content with images. Don't give somebody, a 300 solid block word count or a different read. Social media posts, keep them short, keep the videos short. Also, obviously, if you've been paying attention to Instagram, they've come out several times this year saying that they're moving towards more of a video-centric platform. Even though they started out as an image platform, they're really moving in the direction of videos. And they're even going to be allowing full-length videos now too, like TikTok. So it'd be, I think, 1080 vertical, I think it is. So in the actual newsfeed post, which right now I think they only allow in stories and things like that. So in terms of video format. Also, I think something to keep an eye out on too is VR. As VR is getting more portable, you don't need a huge computer to run some of this smaller stuff. And I mean, obviously the fact that Facebook owns Oculus, I think we could very well see some posting possibilities or platform integration possibilities with VR in terms of Facebook and possibly Instagram as well.
Yeah. Any thoughts on Meta and how Instagram and Facebook are very similar? And also I'm curious too, because it seems like you get one social media platform and they're kind of doing things new and exciting and different, and then everybody starts copying them. Instagram now is kind of copying TikTok, and it seems very homogenous. Any thoughts on that, Dave?
Yeah, I think they're just trying to make sure they don't lose their market share is really what it boils down to with Instagram. And they're seeing, TikTok success and seeing, I think, some slower performance possibly on their platform in terms of interactions and so on. So I think that's the reason they're gravitating really is bottom line. It really just is all about the dollar, so to speak. Yeah.
Brian,
any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would agree with Dave. I feel like it's the major platforms are all really concerned about how much time people spend on site and what the demographic of those people are. Because they want to sell advertising at the end of the day. They want to be attractive to advertisers, so they're changing up. As Dave pointing out, with videos and video length and that kind of thing, they're always tweaking and changing things, trying to not lose market share, trying to steal market share back or away from other people. So, and I'm also really interested to see where VR is going to go, because Meta, Facebook's owner, is spending just tons and tons of money into that space right now. So it'll be interesting to see what comes out of that and where that might go in the future, for sure.
Yeah. Even in the bookish world, seeing, maybe the images popping off the page in some capacity, especially when you start talking about graphic novels and comics and just how it can create a more engaging and interesting user experience in the world of books. How about any pitfalls? I'll go to you first, Brian, for this question. Pitfalls or places where you've seen people have a hard time, maybe with their website or anything, digital media marketing, any, don'ts that you might want to share or pain points that you've seen people have.
Yeah. There are website builders out there like Weebly and Wix and that type of thing. And GoDaddy has their own as well, that they all purport, set up your website. It's super easy. And what you end up with there is lock-in a lot of times. And then if you want to do things like, I want to have the Facebook pixel on my site, it comes with an upcharge. Or I want to have a landing page, it comes with an upcharge. And before you know it, you're really spending a lot. Inexpensive hosting providers. There's a lot of people out there who for $1 a month or $10 a year or something will host your website, and they sound really fantastic when you start. But everything becomes an upsell opportunity for them. And, especially if you contact their support for any reason, the answer is always going to be you need to buy an upgrade versus, actually providing a solution to your problem. So be aware of that going in. And there are some good hosting providers out there like Cloudways or WP Engine or Kinsta or something like that who won't kind of go down that path with you. And it costs a little bit more upfront, but you'll have a very good performing platform and good support people behind you if you need it. It won't be frustrating if you run into a problem later on. So that would be one piece of advice I'd toss out there.
Yeah, excellent advice. And again, everybody who's watching on the BookFest website right now know that Brian and Dave are the masterminds behind that. And that's why you have this incredible user experience. And, we get so much traffic during the BookFest from around the world when this is happening. So knock on wood, now I'm saying that and all of a sudden the site crashes. But we've been very lucky in any of the little hiccups we might have had during BookFest. It was just that. It was, a small hiccup in the bigger scheme of things. And I attribute that to the excellent platforms and hosting and everything that we have going on the back end. And people don't see that. They don't see the magic that's happening backstage, so to speak.
Yep.
Dave, same question. Pitfalls or pain points that you see people have that you might want to forewarn others about.
Yeah, I was just going to say too, on Brian's point too, scaling. I think that was a big part of, why you set us up the way you did for the BookFest is having a platform that can scale with, you as you grow kind of a thing. But pitfalls, especially in social media, I think there's two big camps that have problems in different ways. I think the first is the people that have never used social media and it's just a black box and they really don't understand it at all and they're just afraid to touch it. The big thing for those folks, I think, is just getting in there and, experiencing it and posting and see what other people are doing and see kind of organically how it works. And remember, too, that social media is called social media because it's about social interactions online. It's not just about constantly posting a picture of your book and expecting that somehow is going to increase your following or get you sales. You know what I mean? It's about the personal stuff more so than it is about, what you're trying to sell. And especially in the beginning, you should do all this stuff that we're talking about at least a year in advance of when you plan on publishing your book. So, don't wait until a couple months or the day your book is published to start getting going on this stuff. Because that's, very important that you build that up in advance. Because again, even if you're self-publishing, you want that audience there ready to buy when you do publish your book. The second camp, I think, is people that use social media and they think they understand social media because they use it day to day to keep in touch with their friends and family and things like that. But they really don't understand the analytics and power and way advertising works and way the algorithms work and so on behind it. And one thing, too, I would caution people against on social media is buying followers, buying likes. This usually isn't a problem on Facebook, but it is on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube to some extent as well. Because really you're doing yourself a disservice in that you're confusing the algorithm that's trying to help you grow. And by putting anonymous people on your social media platform, kind of like what Brian was saying with, the contest, because that's a lot of how those people come to you is they'll do a contest and they have to follow you to be in the contest, and it's for an iPad or something, but they're not going to care about your platform. They're not really going to engage with your platform. And it's just going to confuse, the systems like Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and who really should be following you. So it's not going to offer your posts up to the right people.
That is such a great point. And we started this conversation off talking about, you're doing this author platform building with the idea of agents and publishers, but a whole nother branch of that, actually, I feel like there's two branches, is for the self-published authors out there. Because when you're building that platform in the beginning, it's one line that could branch off either way, depending upon which way you go. But if you're building that platform and you're going to self-publish, then bought followers are going to do you no good because they're never going to buy your book. It's just a number. And like you said, Dave, it's not going to serve you as far as the analytics or anything else. If anything, it's going to hurt you in severe ways that you might not even be able to automatically see. But okay, we could go on and on and on, and maybe we'll do this again at the next BookFest, because I wanted to ask about Amazon advertising too, and some of the third-party sites in advertising. Really quick, any thoughts on that, Dave? Because I did want to touch on that before we call it.
Yeah, so Brian too was talking about ClickFunnels and things like that, and I don't think people really understand totally like how Google Analytics work and the depth of it too, because you can actually take your website and you can create a ClickFunnel path in Google Analytics for it to understand, and it can show you like how many people are coming into the funnel, where they're falling off, how many are making it to the final sales page, etc., things of that nature. So Google and Facebook both are fairly robust in those respects, and it's good to use those, platforms to do that all in one place by having your own website. So, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Final thoughts, gentlemen. Brian, you first. Any final thoughts or things you want to say before we call it a panel?
Yeah, so there's a lot to think about here that we talked about today in terms of social media, in terms of website and email marketing and all that kind of stuff. And, get a piece of paper and draw it out and, and help yourself understand it that way. Like, that your social media should be connecting back into your website. You should be driving traffic back that way. And Google should be driving traffic into your website. Your website should be driving signups to your email list. Like draw all of that out, understand where that's going. And then when it's time to look at analytics, now you know what you're interested in. How many people came from Facebook or TikTok? How many people came from Google searches or whatever? So just draw all this stuff out and just make sure you understand just the high level picture of it, and the rest will become a lot clearer going forward.
Amazing advice. Dave, final thoughts.
Yes, all that. It'll also help your web developer too, probably.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes, but yeah, we could go on and on. I would just say, do the research online. That's the biggest thing I think people forget to do in advance, is before they really, set pen to paper, so to speak, do the research on your name, look up, what your book is called, see if there's any other books that are named the same thing, try and be as unique as possible so that, you can set yourself apart as much as possible too in this as well.
I could not agree more. Brian Bosch, David Duffy from Black Château / the BookFest, and Brian's company is also Invoke as well. Thank you so much for joining us. My only final thought is, and I'm just going to underscore what's already been said, don't wait until the last minute, because I get the call all the time. I just launched my book. Now I'm ready for the website and the marketing and all of this. And by then, a lot of it's a little bit too late. So thank you, gentlemen. And thank you, everybody, for being with us today. More of the BookFest is coming up here on the BookFest Adventure Fall 2022.